everyone, and welcome to our session, Easy Yet Convincing Methods to Prove Digital Adoption ROI. I am Tom Howe, a Digital Transformation Officer at WalkMe, along with Tobias Washington, Systems Director, Digital HR and Employee Experience from Christus Health.
Hi, Tom. Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely. And we're both, extremely excited to be here today to share with you some insights and best practices, along with a great customer story from Tobias that will most definitely put fuel in your digital adoption ROI journey. To set the stage, let's look at what a typical transformation journey looks like for organizations. And let's be honest, it's not always a straight curve up the mountain. What typically starts in an experimentation with an initial investment across one or more applications quickly turns into a show me the money conversation. This is what we call the value trough. And this is where organizations must pivot to go from random reactive acts of digital to proactive digital adoption. As we move out through the trough and up the curve, we have to shift from meeting the needs of the day to proactively moving the digital transformation needle. When we operationalize digital adoption as a strategy into the very fabric of our organizational ecosystem, we enable continuous virtuous cycle of digital adoption value delivery. Putting this into perspective, consider this conversation between CIO and CEO. I think we've all experienced some of this. It all starts with the CIO introducing that latest shiny object that has unproven potential. Of course, the CEO's enthusiasm is tempered just a bit at first in a wait and see approach, but with gauged optimism depending on her CIO's past experience. With the pilot complete, the CIO makes that initial transformational investment, and so the story journey begins. But wait, fast forward a few weeks, months, and hopefully not for the CIO's sake, years later, and the conversation quickly slips from that new tech honeymoon stage to the CEO looking for a return on his investment. And so you can imagine the conversation can go one of two ways from here. One ending up with the CIO being, the hero, planting the flag on Mount Summit, or worse, CIO not working there anymore. Fortunately for all, as the story goes, the CIO continued to drive that exponential value through a great user experience to transform and innovate the business, and is rewarded with planting that flag at the top of Mount Summit. So the question is to you, and really with regards to this session, where do you identify yourself on this curve? There really is no wrong answer here as you find yourself on your digital adoption journey. Today, we're going to have a conversation about real life best practices and lessons learned through the lens of Christus Health and Tobias Washington. So Tobias, I know you have your own story to share. Can you just take us back to when you started your journey? What were some of the challenges you were facing, and what led you to WalkMe?
Yeah, we were in the middle of moving from 40 applications to one application. And the interesting thing was we knew that this was one of the times that this would touch the entire organization. And in my tenure at Christus, I had never done a project where the entire workforce would need to be trained or impacted in some capacity. And so we knew that we didn't want to do things where we had always done them before. We knew that we needed a more modern solution that would help us make sure that every employee got what they needed when they needed it. And then also that we were leveraging practices that were in some sense scalable, that, if we did it for 100 people, we could very quickly make that happen for the other 30,000 as we needed to over the course of this project.
And you were, as I kind of look at your story, I know one of the things you were able to do is really pivot kind of from that reactive to proactive mode in a really, quick manner. What were some of the accelerators that allowed you to move more quickly?
So we started with a few apps, and we knew that those apps were going to be the key moments that were important to our employees and our associates initially. But what we found out is that folks really enjoyed it. Folks really loved it. It made more sense than what we were doing previously. And so very quickly, there was this sense of, hey, how do we make sure that this is available as we bring on more and more technologies, as we bring on more and more new digital experiences to our associates, how do we make sure that we call WalkMe Noah in our organization? How do we make sure Noah is very much a part of the way we do this going forward? So we started with a few key apps, and then we realized, hey, this, we got Epic coming. We got a lot of other big initiatives coming. So we wanted to make sure that we can not only scale quickly, but also make sure it was available across everything that we were doing.
Awesome. Yeah. And I have to ask this question because I kind of opened the whole story about, when you get to the point where your manager, your supervisor, or whatever asks you, show me the money, right? Show me the ROI. When did you get asked about the value of WalkMe, and who asked, and how did you respond?
Thank you for asking, because I think that is a critical question that every leader will need to be able to answer at some point. And I remember talking with my leader one time, bragging about what we were doing here and how we were making things happen. And he said, "You know what, man? That's really cool. It's it's really, really cool. And I thought, it wasn't like he was saying from his perspective anything was wrong or anything was negative, but cool just set with me differently. And I wanted for him to respond to WalkMe in a way that said, you know what? I can't live without that tool in my business process. It's like, I think that WalkMe brings so much value to our organization that we can't live without. And we got to have it in everything that we're doing, every transformation that we're producing. We got to make sure WalkMe is part of it. And that just lit a fire in me, right? I didn't want WalkMe or Noah to be known as the cool guy. I wanted WalkMe to be known and Noah to be known as the tool that was delivering business outcomes and bringing value to the organization.
I can really appreciate that. And I heard you say before, and it really resonated with me, it's not the amount of stuff we're doing that brings value, it's how we do it. That really resonated with me. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that and how that affected the culture at Christus Health?
Yeah, I think it went from us just doing stuff, right? When things are cool, everyone's knocking on your door, and that's exciting. Like, you have a lot of business and you have a lot of customers knocking at your door saying, "Hey, I want what you're offering." And I think for me, that cool conversation again lit me in a way that I had to start to think about, well, if we're really going to be able to demonstrate how WalkMe is bringing value, we have to step back and start to look at those critical factors that say WalkMe is bringing value. So we start to, hey, let's look at all the data we have. Let's take the data. Let's stop building stuff. So it was my team was kind of like, what do you mean we're not going to build stuff? No, we're not going to build stuff. How we get to value is important. And the way we got there was stop building. Let's look at everything we have. First of all, let's make sure it's working, it's delivering the intended said outcomes and said value. And we started and WalkMe has great data, great dashboards, right? And so we started to use those to run our business and say, hey, we're running a DAP business. We want to be able to look at the data and say, here's how WalkMe is adding value or not adding value. And so what we would do is we would look at if this walkthrough was getting 50,000 hits, and that meant that we were just delivered that application, then that might be great. 2 years from now, 50,000 hits might not be as great, right? So is that actually the intended outcome we wanted? But then to start to have that conversation with our stakeholders, with our executives. So we would take that data and we would take that quarterly report and say, hey, here's what we're thinking WalkMe has done for you over the last month. Let's have a conversation about it. And I remember my team would get a little frustrated because sometimes the stakeholder would say, that's not what that data point meant to me. And it was just great to me to hear that our stakeholders were participating in the conversation. They're giving us feedback. They're saying what they think is important to them. And we have something to continue to work on and derive and deliver from again. But our stakeholders then get used to getting these reports on a regular basis and starting to drive where we take NOAA in the future. That helps us also make sure that whenever someone talks about WalkMe, whenever someone talks about how they're delivering organizational change in our business, that they see NOAA as an integral part of their digital transformation project, their business project, or whatever they're doing. NOAA can be a part of that.
It's just amazing what you've been able to do in such a short amount of time, in terms of, really going from that reactive to proactive and changing a culture and driving value and being data driven. So hindsight's 2020, right? So
Wow.
to kind of, maybe help the audience a little bit with a few things that you would have liked to have known when you first started that you can share with everybody else.
If I think about it, first of all, is to figure out why you do it, right? How matters. It's important that you don't just do something for the sake of doing it. You really understand, is this going to get you the value that you are intending to do it, that is intended, and why is it that we're even doing this in the first place? And there was a hard conversations to have. That's tough. It's one of those places where you have to draw a strong line in the sand and say, hey, we can't really determine why, and it just sounds good to do it, then we're not going to do it. And you want people to want your services. So how you have that conversation is important, but you got to start with the why. And then a part of that why is figuring out what are the baselines? What are the things that we're working to improve? So are we working to reduce calls? Are we working to have a stronger NPS score? What's important? Are we working to see greater revenue? And then how can we specifically tie WalkMe's interactions or WalkMe's work with that process back to that metric? And then I would say, once we got WalkMe, everyone was we were started with Infor, and everything was like, oh, we'll put WalkMe here, we'll put WalkMe here, we'll put WalkMe here. And then we had WalkMe, and I would brag about this in some sessions like this, right? We would have WalkMe in 40 applications. Yeah, but what is it really doing, right? So we had to get back to why did we really buy WalkMe? We bought WalkMe to help with some of our initial digital transformation projects around Infor. And so we had to go back to what is the main thing we should be doing? Like, where is the most impact if for us as a team of 3, that we can deliver? So keep the main thing the main thing. And then whenever you're building content, it's going to generate a sense of folks wanting to want more and more. But we deliver that content, or we build that content in a way that we can grow. Like, we are prepared to take what we've done here and expand it. I think, WalkMe does a good job with the concept of having a center of excellence, and a lot of great framework out there around that. But you have to be in a position to be ready to execute a center of excellence. They just don't happen. You have to be, you have had to develop that expertise, within a couple people, and then also be ready to have some folks ready to execute that across a pretty big organization like ours. And then number 5 kind of goes without saying, right? You can't boil the ocean. So try to figure out where is it that you can really deliver the most value. And as I said earlier, get really comfortable with saying no, or yes and. Yes, we could do that if with these resources or with this amount of time or whatever. But don't say yes to everything, because what you'll end up doing is delivering mediocre value, and that's how the product will be labeled. It gave me some value, not enough that I would want to go back for more.
That was awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tobias, for your time. I really appreciate it. I think that was just a gold mine of best practices and lessons learned for us in the audience. Thank you for sharing your experience. I really appreciate it. And looking forward to many more great things coming out of the Christus Health in terms of just, seeing you multiply that value across your organization. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So to bring it all together today, regardless of where you are in your journey, here are 4 simple steps to help your organization realize the full potential of its technology investment. 1, understand the full potential of digital adoption, right? It's not just quantitative, right? Also qualitative from an experience perspective. Identify clear goals aligned to your business objectives. It's not technology for technology's sake. Narrow and prioritize your key metrics that matter to you the most. As Tobias said, don't boil the ocean. Evolve your strategy over time. Turn it into an agile, virtuous cycle of digital adoption, making it part of your DNA. Consider this along with best practices that Tobias shared today as you embark on your journey and build your digital adoption center of expertise. And use WalkMe's digital adoption platform as your GPS for measuring, analyzing, and actioning your journey to maximize results. Putting this into practice and understanding what good looks like while operationalizing the return on investment, well, let's face it, can be a challenge. So consider utilizing WalkMe's established digital adoption value framework to make it easier for you. The framework was developed based on feedback from hundreds of customers like you. We use a simple acronym, HERO, to help you explore the full potential of your digital adoption. H stands for happiness, also described as user satisfaction. Measures the degree to which users find your application helpful and easier to use. Depending on your use case, user satisfaction can be quantified with metrics like NPS, CSAT, ESAT, or assessed using informal feedback or surveys. E, engagement, measures your user's ability to adopt applications, complete processes, and use applications as intended. Are your users conducting desired behaviors and completing intended processes? Do you even know that? Are they doing so effectively? Are they returning to your application because they see value in its use? R, realization of value, measures an organization's ability to close the gap between their product and technology investment and ROI. If an organization has invested millions in technologies, are they seeing the return? By empowering employees and enabling a seamless customer experience, WalkMe improves application usage and productivity, reducing the TCO, growing revenue, and maximizing business outcomes. O, operational excellence, measures an organization's ability to execute new key priorities as a result of the productivity, efficiency, and visibility that WalkMe provides. Essentially, doing more stuff with less because they're not supporting basic app needs. So thank you all for joining us for this session, where we hope you have indeed picked up some easy yet convincing methods to prove digital adoption ROI in your organization. We hope you take advantage of all the great content that's in store for you in the upcoming sessions, roundtables, demos, and workshops. Check out the Realize agenda to navigate your way to all that's available to you. Thank you again.